Hey everyone, Dan here. We are after market close on Wednesday, July 7th. Today we're going to take a look at NIO. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also, if you would like to receive a once or twice per week email from me starting in August, in the description below there's a link to a Google form where you can put your email, and I'll add it to the list. And once I'm ready to send out my first one, I'll send a note to folks and say, hey, newsletter is going to start on this date. Here's what it's going to be. If you're no longer interested, no worries. Here's how you can opt out. So feel free to do that if that could be of interest to you at the moment. All right, so NIO had a bit of a sell-off today. If we want to pull this over. And what we're going to do in this video is we're going to take a look at the chart first. We're going to plot ourselves some courses, some trends to look at, go through the indicators, and then we'll take a look at the data really quickly and get a sense for what's there. So big volume today on NIO, almost 85 million versus an average of just shy of 70 million over the last 3 months. That said, down almost 8.5% on the day, so a pretty challenging go for NIO. Basically erasing all of the gains that it had made from this pump up, where it stretched over this previous topping out zone here. It had made its more recent highs around 55, and then basically retracing all the way back down to where it started this pump, just over $45. So, a couple of things that stand out to me on the chart. So one, it was clearly in this channel holding pretty solidly for a while. There we go. So it had done some good tests of the bottom, about 3, 4, 5 tests to the bottom, and then about 4 or 5 tests to the top. And then it peeked its head out, which, as we know, if it can't establish out of a channel to the top or the bottom, and like actually leave the channel, it often will make its way back into the channel and then push itself through the other side. So it's often a signal of like a big reversal. And so what we see here is just that. So it pushed from the bottom all the way up through the top relatively quickly, but then lost all of its steam. A bunch of selling pressure came in, and it tried to hold the middle of the channel, but couldn't, and then just plummeted through the floor of it today. When you see this enormous red candle here, this is the 4-hour time frame, so it's also why you see it as such one enormous red candle. But I'd look for some catch zones here where, to me, it's not so far out of the channel that it couldn't return back to it. It could absolutely work its way, and it could do sort of a couple of things. One, it could start moving in a sideways consolidation sort of fashion like this, could move along this box, in which case it's leaving that channel behind. It's not going to return back to it. The other thing that it could do is it could continue, obviously, to drop down further and, again, just increase its distance away from the channel, and it's not going to return down to it, or to it. What it could do on the other side is it could make a pretty significant run upward back toward the bottom, the lower bound of the channel, and basically start hugging this bottom bound of the channel, trying to work itself back in. Now, if it does that, I think we have a really good chance to reinitiate this channel, because it had been in here since from about May 11th until yesterday, and started the day there today. So, I could definitely see it doing that, being such a relatively long-term channel, having tested the top and the bottom several times, then, getting like some volatility and jumping out of the top, and now falling back through the bottom. Could just be a sign of volatility, potentially based off of, news catalysts that we'll look at in a few minutes. That wouldn't be anything sort of shocking. But if we zoom back out here and grab ourselves some zones that we could look for potential support and resistance in the coming days or weeks, what I'd be looking for are these areas where there's pretty significant support and resistance. So here we have resistance, support, and resistance, support, and now it's sort of like trying to catch itself there at the moment. Now, if it can, that would be great. That would be a good opportunity for it to get back into that channel, but 86.23 is about the zone at which you'd want to see it establish support. Now, if it can't, and it needs to come back through a little bit, sorry, I keep popping this out. It's just so hard to look at zoomed all the way in. The next solid stop on the road, in my opinion, resistance, support and resistance, support. More recently, support, resistance, support. So 43.40 would be another zone to look at on the downside if you're looking for like dip buy type of situations. Down here just under 40, or maybe right at about 40, because that could be quite a psychological zone, would be another one that I'd look at for potential support. Now to the upside, for areas that you could think about trimming, taking profit, what have you. This one is pretty solid, 51.59, and then also right about here, 48.70. So that's not too far away. Basically, if we can get support over 48.70, then and it's doing it in relatively near future, that to me would indicate it's probably trying to work itself back into that channel pretty hard. These are the upside price targets that I would look for if you were gunning for something a bit more, say a bit further away from the current price action. So these are the areas that I would look for to the upper and the downside besides just this channel. So who knows if this channel will be there next time we look at it, or I should say whether or not it'll even be a factor. All these support zones to the bottom, if you're looking for it to catch somewhere. I'm trying to see, is there something here? There will be a little something here too, to be honest. I'd put a little slightly weaker area support, but might be more realistic because thinking that it's going to drop all the way back down to under 40 could be a tall order. It very well may not get down that far. So if you're waiting to buy it under 40, you might just not get the chance. But that 42.07 could be another good option for you if you wanted it. But there's a few others in the midst here, like this 44.77. It's a decent area with this resistance and this support here. But basically these are the big ones that I would look for in the near term to see where we can get some sort of support and resistance going, given the volatility in recent days. As you'd imagine, the RSI very, very low after the big sell-off today, so nearly oversold. Could bring in significant buying pressure just to sort of like get it back on par. MACD obviously pulling in a bunch of bearish momentum, so really nice big swings here, which is what you want to see with these more volatile stocks. That can be really good for trading, really good for options, or really crushing to your account for options, to be honest, if you played the wrong direction. But MACD is still getting more real estate from the signal line at the moment, so definitely not reducing the bearish momentum, actually picking it up, the most bearish momentum that we've seen on this entire area of the chart, actually. So it's as bearish as it's been at any period since it got in this channel. Now I know the MACD stretched down lower here, but if you see the areas of the histogram, this is far larger and deeper than anything back here. But it's sitting just under the baseline now, so it has a lot of opportunity to run up, but also has more opportunity to run down if this bearish momentum can't be quelled. So that's what I see on the chart. So we're going to flip over to the data side of things. Before we do that, I will say if you're enjoying this video, obviously like, subscribe, comments, but also sharing these videos helps a ton, and I really appreciate it. Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you share or talk stocks, if you're able to share it there and say, hey, I thought this video was cool, here's what the guy's saying. Have a look if you're interested. Those things help a ton, and I definitely appreciate it. All right, so on sort of look at a couple of catalysts at play here. On the analyst side of things, obviously I don't take what analysts say with, as like the word of God or anything, but to the extent to which institutions, hedge funds, large blocks of retail traders do follow analyst opinions. Right now they have a consensus price target of 60.41, giving it 20% of return potential to the upside. So heavily outweighted on the buys, no sell analysts currently, according to Ortex at least. So, a bunch of strong potential there. Here's obviously really good reporting that came out for June. NIO reports record deliveries, besting XPeng, which trades as XPEV, if you're familiar with XPEV. In a press release from NIO, they reported deliveries of 8,083 vehicles last month, representing 116.1% growth compared to June of 2020. So it's year-over-year growth of 116.1%. It's great. The 8,000 plus deliveries in June 2020 is also a 20% increase compared to this past May, when NIO reported 6,711 deliveries. So, really good news. Obviously, this came out, I don't know why it started me down here at the bottom of this, but this was a July 1st news item. And on July 1st, we saw this action here. So that's where we saw it stretch up and out of the channel and held that for about that day, and then started to come back down into the channel pretty quickly. So a lot of folks playing the hype. Obviously, that was a big part of this run up on the 28th, and then running up all the way through the 1st. And then, good news comes out, and folks, what is it? Buy the hype, sell the news. Looks like a lot of folks took that sort of idea to heart with NIO. But, that's a big thing that I would look at right now, just sort of like the good news, the hype factors, people overplaying it, overextending, being happy to take profit, being happy that they caught the hype, and then basically now it's trying to find, okay, so based on this new reality of NIO, beating out XPeng pretty significantly and showing great year-over-year growth and, a larger number of deliveries month over month, what's the right sort of like price floor? Obviously, and again, this is me just voicing retailers in bulk, but basically NIO's price not being exemplified by this huge run up here, that being considered an overreaction, being considered playing the hype. What is the proper price level for it now? So that's what it's essentially trying to do at the moment, and that is the question in the days ahead. I would contend it's going to settle along one of these price targets. Obviously, if it falls down below that $39.93, it will come back and go ahead and hit a new video with some additional areas to look at. I would keep an eye out for this gap here, though that gap, was exposed about 6 weeks ago, so it might be well out of play at the moment, but just be aware, there is a gap that's still kind of hanging out there that could be apt to be filled. If it does fall below it, you might be looking at something around mid $38 range. All right, well, that'll do it for this one. I wish you the best of luck if you're in NIO or if you end up jumping in, and I hope that you have a great trading week no matter what you're trading. I will see you in the next video.